The sun had just dipped below the horizon, painting streaks of orange and purple across the sky, as Flight Phi X462 prepared for takeoff. Boarding was in full swing, and the cabin hummed with the usual mix of passengers: tired business travelers, giddy vacationers, and the occasional first-timer marveling at the plane's sheer size. Among the business-class passengers was an unassuming man in his mid-40s, dressed casually in a plain gray hoodie, jeans, and worn sneakers. To most, he looked like an exhausted tech worker or perhaps a middle manager flying home after a long week. But that was the point. He wanted to blend in. This man was Marcus Devereaux, a billionaire tech entrepreneur whose face rarely appeared in the media. His company, Novatech, had quietly revolutionized artificial intelligence, and his net worth was whispered about in hushed tones among the elite. $67 billion. Marcus preferred anonymity. The hoodie and jeans were his shield against recognition, especially after his last flight where he'd been mobbed by fans. But tonight, his desire for quiet anonymity would collide with one fateful decision. Enter Sophia Harrington, a career flight attendant known for her no-nonsense attitude. At 35, Sophia had worked her way up to the prestigious international routes, where business class and first-class passengers often demanded perfection. She prided herself on her sharp eye for detail, her ability to enforce rules, and her unshakable composure in stressful situations. But tonight, Sophia was already on edge. A last-minute roster change had thrown her off balance, and the chaotic boarding process wasn't helping. As she walked down the aisle to check the seating arrangements, her sharp gaze fell on Marcus. Something about him didn't sit right. His casual attire seemed out of place among the tailored suits and designer handbags that populated business class. Sophia furrowed her brow and double-checked her tablet. His seat, 4A, was indeed booked, but his name listed simply as Monsieur Devereaux wasn't familiar. "Excuse me, sir," she said, approaching him with a polite yet firm tone. Marcus looked up from his phone, his face calm but slightly tired. "Yes? I just need to confirm. Are you sure you're in the right seat? This is business class." "Yes, I'm sure," Marcus replied, his voice steady but not confrontational. Sophia's eyes narrowed. "May I see your boarding pass?" Without hesitation, Marcus handed over his digital boarding pass. Sophia scanned it, her lips pressing into a thin line. Everything checked out, but something still nagged at her. "I'll be right back," she said, walking briskly to consult with her colleague. Sophia returned moments later, her expression tight. "Mr. Devereaux, I'm afraid we're going to have to ask you to move to another seat. It appears there's been a mistake with your booking." Marcus blinked, clearly puzzled. "A mistake? Everything seems fine to me." "Sir, we have policies in place, and I need to ensure that our business class seats are allocated appropriately. If you don't mind, I'll need you to move to economy." Several nearby passengers turned to watch the exchange, their interest piqued by the unfolding drama. Marcus's calm demeanor didn't waver. "I paid for this seat. Are you saying I don't belong here?" Sophia hesitated, feeling the weight of the passengers' stares. "I'm saying there are certain standards we uphold in this cabin, and—" "Standards?" Marcus interrupted, raising an eyebrow. His tone was still calm, but now laced with an edge of incredulity. Sophia squared her shoulders. "I don't mean to offend, sir, but if you don't comply, I'll have to involve security before takeoff." Marcus exhaled slowly, then rose from his seat. "Fine," he said simply, grabbing his carry-on bag. The murmurs in the cabin grew louder as he made his way to the economy section. Back in the business class cabin, Sophia felt a mix of relief and unease. She had asserted her authority, but something about the encounter didn't sit right. Still, she pushed the feeling aside, focusing on the other passengers. Meanwhile, Marcus settled into an economy seat, his long legs awkwardly crammed against the seat in front of him. He glanced out the window, the faintest hint of a smirk playing on his lips. Unbeknownst to Sophia, word of the incident was already spreading. A passenger in business class had discreetly filmed the entire exchange and uploaded it to social media with the caption, "Flight attendant just kicked a billionaire out of business class for wearing a hoodie." The video began to gain traction almost immediately, with comments flooding in. "Does she not know who Marcus Devereaux is? Wow, talk about judging a book by its cover. This is going to cost her big time. The captain intervenes. Halfway through the flight, the captain, Captain Alvarez, received a discreet notification from the airline's headquarters. The video had reached them, and so had Marcus's identity. Wait, Marcus Devereaux? The Novatech guy? Alvarez muttered, his eyes widening. He stepped out of the cockpit and made his way to economy, where he found Marcus quietly reading on his tablet. Mr. Devereaux, he said, lowering his voice, I wasn't aware you were on board. Please accept my apologies. May I escort you back to business class? Marcus looked up, his expression neutral. I appreciate the offer, but I'm fine here. Are you sure? Alvarez pressed, glancing nervously at the curious passengers nearby. I'm sure, Marcus said with a faint smile, but thank you. When Sophia learned who Marcus Devereaux was, her heart sank. Her face turned pale as she replayed the encounter in her mind. She had not only misjudged a passenger, but had potentially humiliated one of the most influential men in the world. Do you think he'll file a complaint? She asked her colleague in a hushed tone. Her colleague shrugged, her expression grim. If he does, you're in trouble. If he doesn't, well, the internet might be another story. As the plane landed and passengers began to disembark, Marcus lingered in his seat, watching the bustling crowd. Sophia approached him, her voice shaking slightly. Mr. Devereaux, But before she could finish, Marcus held up a hand. It's fine, he said simply, his tone unreadable. You were doing your job. Sophia nodded, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. She watched as Marcus walked off the plane, his unassuming figure blending into the crowd. Later that evening, Sophia scrolled through her phone, dreading what she might find. The video of their encounter had gone viral, amassing millions of views and sparking a heated debate. But what truly shook her was a tweet from Marcus Devereaux himself. It read, Sometimes it's better to be underestimated, makes life more interesting. What Marcus meant by that tweet, and whether Sophia's career would survive the fallout, remained uncertain. Sophia woke up the next morning to her phone buzzing incessantly. She groggily reached for it, squinting at the screen. Her heart immediately sank. Her inbox was flooded with messages, and her social media notifications were spiraling out of control. You're trending on Twitter, texted her colleague Emily, followed by a screenshot of the viral video. Sophia felt a cold lump in her stomach as she clicked on the link. The video now had over 15 million views, with headlines from major news outlets already running variations of the story. Billionaire tech mogul booted. From business class for wearing a hoodie. Flight attendant faces backlash after confronting Marcus Devereaux. Hidden billionaire or arrogant attendant, social media can't decide. The comment sections were an absolute battlefield. Some defended her actions. She was just doing her job. How was she supposed to know he's a billionaire? Marcus could have just clarified instead of letting this escalate. But the majority weren't on her side. This is why judging people by their appearance is so outdated. She might as well have handed him a personalized invitation to ruin her career. If I were Marcus, I'd buy the whole airline just to fire her. Sophia buried her face in her hands. This wasn't just a bad day at work anymore. It was becoming a public spectacle. Meanwhile, Marcus Devereaux sat in the minimalist living room of his sprawling Silicon Valley estate, sipping coffee as his assistant, Jenna, nervously debriefed him on the situation. You're absolutely everywhere right now, Jenna said, glancing at her tablet. The video has gone viral on every platform, and journalists are already reaching out for comments. Forbes wants an exclusive. CNN wants to know if you'll appear on air to talk about the incident. Marcus smirked and set down his mug. An incident? Sounds dramatic. Well, it is dramatic, Jenna replied, her voice rising slightly. Public perception is everything, Marcus. If you don't respond carefully, this could become a PR disaster for Novatech. Some people are already framing it as a billionaire victim narrative, and others are accusing you of being petty for not immediately clarifying your identity. Marcus leaned back in his chair, his expression calm and thoughtful. Let them talk, he said after a pause. I'm not interested in playing into the spectacle. But are you just going to let this go? Jenna asked, surprised. Marcus stared out the window, his mind elsewhere. Not quite. Let's just say I have a few ideas. By midday, Sophia was summoned to a tense virtual meeting with her airline's HR team. Sitting stiffly in her apartment, she faced a panel of stern-looking executives on her laptop screen. "Ms. Harrington, I'm sure you're aware of the situation that has unfolded," began one of the executives, a gray-haired man with a clipped tone. "Your interaction with Mr. Devereaux has caused significant backlash, and we need to address this immediately." Sophia nodded, swallowing hard. "I understand, sir. I want to sincerely apologize for my actions. I didn't recognize Mr. Devereaux, and—" The man held up a hand, silencing her. "Whether or not you recognized him is irrelevant. What matters is that your behavior has damaged the airline's reputation. Passengers in business class expect a certain level of discretion and professionalism, and this situation has highlighted a failure on our part to uphold those standards. I never intended to. We're placing you on immediate administrative leave while we investigate further," the man continued. "This is not a termination, but we cannot have you working flights while this situation is under review." Sophia felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. She nodded numbly, barely registering the rest of the conversation. When the call ended, she sat in silence, staring at the blank screen. Marcus's quiet moves. While Sophia grappled with the fallout, Marcus decided it was time to act. He was a man of few words but significant actions. As he scrolled through social media, he noticed a growing divide in public opinion. Some people blamed the airline, some blamed him, and others blamed the concept of billionaires altogether. He tapped his phone and called Jenna. "Pull up everything we have on Sophia Harrington," he said. "What for?" Jenna asked hesitantly. "Just get me what you can. Education, career history, financial situation, the works." "Marcus, this sounds borderline invasive." "Trust me," he replied. "I'm not looking to punish her." Sophia's past resurfaces. As the story gained traction, investigative journalists began digging into Sophia's past. One particularly determined reporter uncovered a story from 5 years prior. Sophia had been involved in a heated dispute with a passenger on a domestic flight, where she'd accused the man of attempting to sit in business class without a proper ticket. It turned out the man had been upgraded at the last minute, and Sophia's error had caused embarrassment for both parties. The article quickly went viral, with the headline, "Flight Attendant's History of Misjudging Passengers Resurfaces Amid Marcus Devereaux Controversy." Sophia's phone buzzed with yet another notification. She clicked on the article, her face flushing as she read the scathing commentary. Her reputation was unraveling faster than she could control. The unexpected email. 3 days after the flight, Sophia received an email from an unfamiliar sender, m.devereaux@novatech.com. Her breath caught as she read the subject line. "Let's talk." The email was brief. "Dear Ms. Harrington, I'd like to discuss the events of our recent flight. I believe there's an opportunity for both of us to learn and grow from this situation. Let me know if you're open to a conversation." Best, Marcus Devereaux. Sophia stared at the screen, her emotions a mix of dread and curiosity. Why would Marcus Devereaux want to speak with her? Was he planning to sue, offer forgiveness, or was this some kind of public stunt? After deliberating for hours, she finally replied, "Dear Mr. Devereaux, thank you for reaching out. I'd be open to a conversation. Please let me know the time and format that works best for you. Sincerely, Sophia Harrington." The meeting. 2 days later, Sophia found herself sitting in a sleek conference room at Novatech's headquarters. The walls were lined with minimalist art and glowing screens displaying Novatech's latest innovations. Marcus entered the room, dressed in his usual understated style. He extended a hand, his expression warm yet unreadable. "Thank you for coming, Ms. Harrington," he said. Sophia shook his hand, her nerves threatening to overwhelm her. "Thank you for inviting me, Mr. Devereaux." "Please call me Marcus," he said, gesturing for her to sit. As they settled in, Marcus leaned forward, his eyes studying her carefully. "I wanted to meet with you because I believe the situation has been blown out of proportion. For both of us. I'm not interested in holding grudges, but I do think there's a valuable lesson here about assumptions." Sophia nodded, her cheeks flushing. "I know I made a mistake, and I deeply regret how I handled the situation. I let my biases cloud my judgment." Marcus smiled faintly. "We all make mistakes. The question is what we do with them. I have an idea that might help both of us move forward." Sophia tilted her head, intrigued. "What kind of idea?" Marcus's smile widened slightly. How would you feel about joining Novatech's corporate training team? We're launching a new initiative focused on customer service, empathy, and breaking down biases in workplace interactions. With your experience and your recent lesson, you'd bring a unique perspective. Sophia blinked, completely taken. You're offering me a job? Marcus nodded. I think this could be a chance for redemption, for both of us. Sophia left the meeting with her mind racing. The offer was generous, almost too generous. But was this Marcus's way of genuinely helping her, or was it a calculated PR move? As she stepped out into the crisp evening air, her phone buzzed with yet another notification. This time, it was a news alert. Marcus Devereaux makes bold statement about recent airline incident. Sophia hesitated before clicking on it, unsure if she was ready for what came next. What would she decide? And what was Marcus's true motive? The answers, perhaps, were still unfolding. As the days passed after her meeting with Marcus, Sophia's mind was a storm of conflicting emotions. On one hand, she felt immense gratitude for his offer, a lifeline in the middle of what felt like the lowest point in her career. But on the other, doubts gnawed at her. Why would a billionaire care so much about redemption? Was this really about helping me, or is there a hidden agenda here? The thought kept her awake at night, replaying Marcus's calm yet calculated demeanor in the meeting. She couldn't shake the feeling that Marcus Devereaux never did anything without a strategy. Sophia confided in her best friend Natalie over coffee. I don't know, Nat. It feels too good to be true, Sophia admitted, stirring her latte absent-mindedly. Natalie, a fiercely independent lawyer, leaned back in her chair, her expression skeptical. You're not wrong to be cautious. Billionaires don't get to where they are by being purely altruistic. But maybe this is a win-win for both of you. He clears his name as the reasonable billionaire, and you get a fresh start. Yeah, but what if I mess it up? What if people think I only took the job because I'm desperate? Natalie shrugged. Newsflash, you are desperate. But who cares what people think? If this job can rebuild your reputation and give you a second chance, you'd be crazy not to take it. Sophia sighed, staring out the cafe window. Deep down, she knew Natalie was right. While Sophia wrestled with her decision, Marcus was finalizing his plans. Sitting in his glass-walled office at Novatech, he reviewed the final draft of the internal memo, announcing the new corporate training initiative. This has to be perfect, Marcus told Jenna, who stood nearby with a stack of notes. I don't want this to come off as damage control. It needs to feel authentic. Jenna raised an eyebrow. Marcus, let's be real. This is damage control. You're just dressing it up as a noble cause. Marcus smirked. Perception is reality, Jenna. If people see this as a positive outcome from an unfortunate incident, that's all that matters. Besides, it's not entirely self-serving. Empathy training is something our team could genuinely benefit from. Jenna tilted her head. And Sophia? Do you actually believe she's the right person for this? I do, Marcus said, his tone resolute. She made a mistake, but she's not a bad person, and she's lived through the fallout of public scrutiny. That kind of first-hand experience is valuable, far more than any corporate textbook on customer service. Jenna remained unconvinced but knew better than to argue. Marcus Devereaux didn't take half measures, and when he set his sights on something, he rarely missed. As news of Marcus's job offer to Sophia leaked online, the internet exploded once again. Social media users had mixed reactions. Wow, Marcus Devereaux is a class act, turning a bad situation into something positive. Sophia doesn't deserve this opportunity. She's only getting it because she messed up. Typical billionaire move. He gets to play the hero while controlling the narrative. If only every mistake at work ended with a job offer from a tech giant. News outlets jumped on the story, spinning it in every direction. From humiliation to redemption. Flight attendant lands job with billionaire's company. Is Marcus Devereaux's training program a PR stunt or a genuine effort to improve work culture? Cancel culture versus second chances. The Sophia Harrington debate rages on. Sophia, now fully aware of how intensely she was being scrutinized, felt her anxiety spike with every new headline. After a week of sleepless nights, Sophia finally gave Marcus her answer. She accepted the job. Her first day at Novatech was surreal. The sprawling headquarters was like a futuristic city unto itself, complete with meditation pods, gourmet cafeterias, and open-concept workspaces that buzzed with innovation. Sophia was introduced to her small team, who would help her develop and launch the Empathy Training Initiative. Some greeted her warmly, while others looked at her with thinly veiled skepticism. "So, you're the Sophia Harrington," one team member, Laura, said with a polite but tight smile. "Must be weird going from serving drinks on planes to working here." Sophia stiffened, but forced a smile. "It's definitely a change, but I'm excited to bring my experience to the table." Laura raised an eyebrow. Experience? Or controversy? The comment stung, but Sophia let it slide. She knew earning respect here wouldn't be easy. Marcus kept a close eye on Sophia's progress, though he rarely interacted with her directly. Instead, he watched from the sidelines, assessing how she adapted to the high-pressure environment of Novatech. One day, he called her into his office for a one-on-one check-in. "How's it going so far?" Marcus asked, leaning back in his chair. "It's challenging," Sophia admitted. "Some people here clearly don't think I belong." Marcus nodded. "You're not wrong. Novatech attracts high performers, and this team is no exception. But don't let them intimidate you. You're here because I see potential in you." Sophia hesitated. "Can I ask you something, Marcus?" "Of course. Why are you doing this?" "Really? You could have let me fade into obscurity after the incident, but instead, you pulled me into your world. What's your endgame?" Marcus smiled faintly, his gaze thoughtful. "Let's just say I believe in second chances. I've made my fair share of mistakes, mistakes that could have derailed my career if someone hadn't given me an opportunity to redeem myself. Now I'm paying it forward." Sophia studied him, searching for any hint of insincerity. If there was any, she couldn't find it. 6 months into her role at Novatech, Sophia was tasked with presenting the Empathy Training Program to the company's top executives, a group notoriously difficult to impress. She poured everything into the presentation, drawing from her years of experience as a flight attendant and weaving in the lessons she'd learned from her own mistakes. When the day of the presentation arrived, the stakes felt impossibly high. The conference room was packed with executives, their expressions ranging from mildly curious to outright skeptical. Marcus sat at the head of the table, his face unreadable. Sophia took a deep breath and began. The first few minutes were nerve-wracking, but as she found her rhythm, her confidence grew. She spoke candidly about the importance of empathy in customer interactions, using real-life examples to drive her points home. She even referenced her viral incident with Marcus, turning it into a teachable moment. By the time she finished, the room was silent. Sophia's heart pounded as she awaited their reactions. Finally, Marcus broke the silence. "That was excellent, Sophia. Truly." The other executives began nodding in agreement, and a few even offered compliments. Sophia felt a wave of relief wash over her. For the first time in months, she felt like she belonged. Despite her growing success at Novatech, Sophia couldn't shake one lingering question. What does Marcus really want from me? She knew he wasn't the type to make decisions based on pure emotion. Everything he did was calculated, and she couldn't help but wonder if she was just a pawn in a larger game. One evening, as she was leaving the office, she bumped into Marcus in the elevator. "Heading home late?" Marcus asked, his tone casual. "Yeah, lots to catch up on," Sophia replied. Then impulsively she added, "Marcus, can I ask you something?" "Of course," he said, his eyes narrowing slightly, as if sensing the weight of her question. "Why me? Why go out of your way to help someone like me?" Marcus was silent for a moment, the hum of the elevator filling the air. Finally he said, "Because sometimes the people who've been underestimated have the most to prove, and I like betting on underdogs." The elevator doors opened, and Marcus stepped out, leaving Sophia alone with her thoughts. Though she was starting to find her footing at Novatech, Sophia knew her journey was far from over. Questions still lingered, about Marcus's true intentions, about her place in this new world, and about whether she could ever fully escape the shadow of her viral mistake. As she walked to her car that night, the city lights shimmering in the distance, Sophia realized one thing: her story was still being written. Would she rise to the occasion and carve out a new identity for herself? Or would the weight of her past and the complexities of Marcus's world pull her under? Only time would tell.